Tap it off.
Thank you very much for that. That was absolutely lovely. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the sights and sounds of the fifes and drums here at Colonial Williamsburg. They were awesome, weren't they? Round of applause from all of you at home and in our studio audience here in Colonial Williamsburg. So we're celebrating our Proud American coverage as we get ready for Independence Day in Norfolk, Virginia. But we've ventured up the road to Colonial Williamsburg, and look who I've found hiding here. The one and only Thomas Jefferson. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Anna.
Thank you. Such a gentleman, isn't he, that TJ? So we're brushing up on our Founding Fathers history while we're here. I want to ask you, what did it feel like to write the Declaration of Independence?
Well, I say that I was aided by neither book nor pamphlet in the creation of this document, and it was truly a private endeavor. I wrote 3 drafts over 3 consecutive days, and the 3rd draft I thought was good enough to submit to my subcommittee with Dr. Franklin, John Adams, Mr. Sherman, Mr. Livingston, and myself. They made some minor alterations. We know that the document says we hold these truths to be self-evident.
Right here,
and
but
yet
there were other words that were originally in their place.
Correct. I originally wrote, we hold these truths to be sacred and undeniable. And Dr. Franklin suggested self-evident. I suppose it will stick.
Yeah, and a lot of you are probably at home singing the Hamilton song. You don't want me to say Hamilton in front of you, though, do you?
Nay, do not speak of that scoundrel.
Exactly. Would you like to read some excerpts from the Declaration of Independence?
Excerpts or the entire thing?
Actually, if you've got the time, do the entire thing.
Well, then very well, we shall do it.
Let's do the entire thing. Take it away.
When, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and institute a new government, laying its foundation on such principles as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty, to throw off such government and provide new guards for their security. Such has been the patient sufferance to these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to the candid world. He has refused his assent to laws the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained, and when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of the public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time after such dissolutions to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers incapable of annihilation have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws of naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the condition of new appropriation of lands. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to the laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount of payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept amongst us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. He has effected to render the military independent and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops amongst us, for protecting them by mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes upon us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of a trial by jury, for transporting us beyond the seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in neighboring provinces, establishing therein an arbitrary government and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for inducing the same absolute rule onto these colonies, for taking away our charters and abolishing our most valuable laws and altering fundamentally the forms of our government, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with the power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people, and he is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy, scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous of ages and totally unworthy of the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become executioners of their friends and brethren, or else to fall themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrections amongst us and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontier the merciless Indian savage, whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. And in every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in our attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably disrupt our connections and correspondence. And they, too, have been deaf to the voice of justice and consanguinity. We must, therefore, acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies at war, and at peace, friends. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved. And as free and independent states, we have the full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and do all other things and acts which independent states of right ought to do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
That was absolutely beautiful, Mr. Jefferson. Thank you very much. Good to hear the emotion in your voice and even tears in your eyes right now. You're going to make me cry as well. We've been asking military members and civilians alike, what makes you proud to be an American?
This is a gift, this entire nation. It's a gift that began in 1776, and it's a gift that we are just momentary stewards of. In 1776, we gave every man a crown. We took a crown off of one man's head and placed that crown upon all men. And we wear that crown today. Collectively and individually, we are sovereign. And it's our hope that we may continue with civil discourse, and we may understand that heavy is the head that wears the crown. And we all bear the weight and responsibility to bring this nation, stare directly in the face of the nation that we inherit, and decide how can we do better.
Yeah, well, I want to ask you, because debate has gotten very ugly these days. How do you weigh in on that? We were making a joke about you and Alexander Hamilton. What's the importance of having healthy debate but making it civil?
Debate is healthy. This country is founded upon debate. There's one of my cousins says, in the 18th century, one of my cousins says, if everyone's thinking the same thing, then someone's not thinking. But the trick is to engage in civil debate. The trick is not to debate the man in front of you, but the ideas between you. And when you engage in civil debate, when you use cool reason over hot passion, then you don't stagnate, you don't allow your ego to get in the way, and we can actually gain forward momentum and even compromise.
And what does Mr. Jefferson think about today's society and America today?
Jefferson would say that in some ways we have achieved greatness, but there's still work to do.
There's still work to do.
Absolutely.
And what about the celebrations that we'll have every year, as we always do, with the fireworks and the pool parties and the parades and hanging out with families? Is that what Mr. Thomas Jefferson would be wanting?
Well, you know, John Adams says that the day that should be remembered as our nation's birthday is July the 2nd, and as usual, Mr. Adams is wrong. He says that July the 2nd should be remembered with fireworks and parades and bands like our fife and drum. That is the day that this declaration was officially adopted to be ratified, July the 2nd. But of course it took 2 days for them to ruin my perfect document. And then on July 4th it was officially voted upon. And today we celebrate with fireworks and parades and hot dogs and pictures with friends and family. But I think it's important to remember what Jefferson calls the spirit of 76. As he says, the spirit of 76, so that we remember the principles over which we initially shed our blood. These principles, this 8-minute document, the Declaration of America's Independence, which founded an entire American experiment in self-government.
Well, we want to tell you and all members of your community, thank you so much for having us at Colonial Williamsburg.
Thank you.
It's been a lot. It's helped a lot of our viewers, like all of you at home, brush up on our Founding Fathers history.
Thank you.
So we appreciate it so very much.
Thank you.
Hope you have a great Independence Day yourself.
We will.
Friends at home, as I mentioned at the top, make sure you send us your pictures, email us, find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, you name it. Send us those pictures using that hashtag #ProudAmerican, wearing your red, white, and blue. Send us pictures having fun in the pool with your family, out at the fireworks, just playing kickball in the backyard. It doesn't matter. We want to see those great memories made in the name of America and America's birthday. We're going to let the fifes and drums here at Colonial Williamsburg play us out. Have a great day, everybody.
Fifes and drums, attend. Jump! Tap it off.